Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders. And this week we're going to talk about the ramifications in Wisconsin's elections of the U.S. Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Chuck, what do you think the impact is going to be here?
Well, first of all, no one will ever remember it as the Dobbs decision. They will remember it as the overturning of Roe versus Wade. So there you go, except for lawyers. I think, Wisconsin is in an interesting situation. The law goes back so far that unlike other states which adopted trigger laws, which are being challenged in court, Wisconsin's law has been here since 1849. So actually, I think the impact on the election here could be even more dramatic than it is in the rest of the country, because immediately people are under a situation where abortions are not legal in the state of Wisconsin. And that law is in effect. It's not like it was a trigger law. It's just remained there. And that was fought vigorously, as Scott and I both know, in the legislature to try to maintain it being there. And I think that what's going to happen here is I do think that this is going to have a very significant impact on the election. What's going on is the question is going to be the concern about democracy in January 6th, which with the recent testimony of the young woman from Meadows' office, who is the chief of staff for President Trump. Between that and what's going on, and even some shifts in the Republican Party, along with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, will those types of issues and the Uvalde situation with guns, will those things be enough to carry over what would otherwise be a bad year? If he were not a Democrat, I think what would be said by James Carville is it's the economy, stupid. And I think that the reality is, if we are paying $5 a gallon for gas in November, I think that it's going to be very hard for Dems to overcome that. However, I do think that that is more of a national issue. It will play a little bit greater with U.S. Senate and House races, but I do think that that is something which will be a dominant force. And I think whichever win you see, you'll be able to attribute it to either Roe versus Wade, along with some of the other things that are hitting the Republicans, including guns, versus the economy. But I'll tell you what, right now, I think Republicans see this as just an unbelievably wild run for them coming up. They see it as a red tide. I do think there is a chance for a blue tide. And the way that would happen is if the gas prices drop down and the economy looks somewhat better before the election, and people start to focus on some of these other things, it could be an unmitigated disaster for them. But that would not be where I'd put my money today.
Yeah, I think you're whistling past the graveyard there, as they say. I think on this case, with regards to the abortion decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, we got a foreshadowing of its impact when it was leaked, right? It was leaked. It was front page news. It was a constant discussion. There were rallies on both sides. And you saw a short-term bump in Democrat enthusiasm for voting. And already before the decision was released, that bump had faded away. And you see that Democrats are less likely to vote in the upcoming elections than Republicans. I think you're seeing the same thing here. There'll be this determination from Democrats that we got to do something. And then the dog days of August will come along, and we will go back to the issue that will dominate the fall elections, which is the inflation and the economy. And part of that is because people will be reminded about inflation and the economy every day. When you go to the grocery store, they will be reminded. When they go to the gas station, they'll be reminded. When you get your monthly statement showing that you've just lost 20% of your retirement savings, like I have since Joe Biden has become president, those things will impact people more than this decision, which people intellectually might disagree with. But for most people, the decision doesn't impact them, unlike inflation and the economy, which affects everybody out there. So I think in the end, it will have very little effect on the fall elections. The Democrats are trying their best to extend the run of it. I mean, with this lawsuit that has been filed, I think the lawsuit's going nowhere. And I just think in the end, the elections this fall will revolve around inflation and the economy, not abortion.
Let me say something that we've talked about many times in this program before that Scott and I have agreed upon. We think that it's much more important to appeal in terms of elections. Frankly, it's emotion much more than it is the issues. And let me say this, abortion and the Uvalde thing, if Democrats are smart, people are going to hear about that every day before the election because they're going to see it in 30-second ads. And let me tell you, between the economy and what's going on there, and Uvalde and Roe versus Wade and the impact, and what I'm hearing from women, as long as they're reminded and they see the emotion of that, Republicans could be surprised at the number of women who turn out and decide, okay, it's down to what are we going to do here? And I think women, drop off voter women, I think they're going to show up at the polls because they know that's the only way they're going to change this. And I think if they're reminded daily with 30-second ads, I could see this emotional issue taking precedence over the slow drip, drip, drip of the economy, especially if things are getting a little bit better. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I think, for your strategy to work, it depends upon paid advertising, whereas the more likely strategy of the natural environment, reminding people that prices are up again. Gosh, gas went up again. My goodness, what happened to my retirement savings? That's going to happen whether or not anyone pays for any television ads in the campaign. I think those cues, those reminders are the ones that will dominate in the fall elections. But you're right. There's a reason we run the race. You never quite know what the answer is going to be. We'll be back.
We'll see you next time, guys.